Hello, in this lecture we'll take a look at a problem that will be very similar to the homework. The numbers will change, the format will remain much the same. So there's two things that we want to get from this. One, we want to learn the accounting concepts. Two, we want to pick up the Excel concepts as well, just in terms of navigating through the Excel document using very basic formulas. This is where you're going to pick up most of your Excel skills that are used on a day-to-day basis. You want to pick up more of those Excel skills when you take a look at an Excel class, but mainly that's to add to the format of Excel. When most of the stuff you're going to learn in Excel that you'll use on a day-to-day basis, or whenever you use Excel, will be picked up in these types of classes where you'll maneuver around in terms of working a problem, entering data, formatting worksheets in order to enter that data. That being said, let's take a look at what we have here. We got the accounting equation up top once again. We have the trial balance that will be here, and that is something that you always going to want to have open, because it'll tell you what accounts are what, meaning the assets accounts are on top. In this case, they're green. Liability accounts will be next. In this case, they're orange. Then equity accounts, and then the income statement, income or revenue and expenses. They're in balance, represented by the green 0 here. The added thing we have here that is, instead of just giving us a quick snapshot of posting directly to the trial balance, we are going to post to the general ledger this time. So we've got the general ledger, which is thought of as kind of like the backup to the trial balance. And we're going to, in this case, of course, use the general ledger in order to build the trial balance. And later on, when you use software, what you're going to do is you're going to kind of think of the general ledger as the backup to the accounts, meaning whatever's in the cash account, if we want to learn history on it, see what happens in a date format, then we can look at the general ledger, which will give us the backup of that. So what we're going to do is we're going to take these same transactions that we looked at in the past. We're going to record those transactions here as we've done in the past. And then instead of posting them here, we're going to post them to the general ledger and see the activity in the general ledger. The general ledger will then post automatically to the trial balance. So let's take a look at these same transactions we've looked at before, run through them once again. So we've got owner A deposits cash into the business checking account, $100,000. So first question, is cash affected? Yes, cash is affected. They put $100,000 into the checking account. Therefore, cash has a debit balance. We're going to make it go up by doing the same thing to it, which in this case would be another debit. So I'm going to right click on this. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to go to cell C5, right click, paste it 1, 2, 3. We're going to put the debit here, 100,000. We don't need to do any special formatting. I'm going to go into the credit side, and I'm going to say negative of this number, or you can just put a negative 100,000. When we hit enter, it should put brackets around it because of the formatting of the cell. Only question is, what should the credit be? Why is that 100,000 get there? How did it get there? Who put it in there? The owner did. So it's not a credit to revenue. We didn't earn it. It's a credit to the capital account in this case, because the owner's the one that put it in there. I'm going to right click on that. I'm going to put my cursor in C6, right click, paste it 1, 2, 3. Then what we're going to do what's called posting to the general ledger. So we're going to post the journal entry to the general ledger. So we're going to find these accounts in the general ledger. It's in the same order. Assets are cash, receivable, and then supplies. Then liabilities, accounts payable, unearned revenue. Then the equity account, owner's capital. Then the income statement accounts being revenue, expenses, wages, and utilities. So we're going to post the cash first, which is right here. You can see this is often referred to as a T account in and of itself. The T is represented right here. We got this, and the T is there. So between this line, we're also going to have a running balance in this case because we can. Excel will allow us to do a running balance instead of just summing them up at the bottom and then seeing what happens. If we're going to do it by hand, we may not want to have a running balance because it'll take a lot more time to calculate with a calculator. But in Excel, it's nice to have a running balance. These will calculate for you automatically. We just need to enter in the blue area. Notice we have the debit and the credit columns here. So I'm going to be in the debit column. I'm in cell K9 there. And then we're going to say equals, and I'm going to point to that cash. So there's the debit in the debit column here. I'm in the debit column here. That equals D5. And then we're going to say enter, and there we have it. It went up to 100,000. That automatically got posted there. So we can see what happened here, and that came from there. The running balance is 100,000 all the way down, and we have we're out of balance by 100,000 at this time because we haven't recorded the other side. So then we can record the other side, and that's going to be the capital account. So the capital account, it's in order, it's down here. We're going to be in the credit side there. So this is the capital account in the credit side, capital account, credit side. And then I'm not going to put any plus or minuses here. I'm just going to say equals, and then I'm going to point to that just like we did in the short system of just posting it here. And then when we hit enter, there it goes up to 100,000, and it also posted here automatically. So this will populate for you automatically. That's coming from that cell. And now we can see what happened. Same thing that happened in the prior format. Cash went up by 100,000. That 100,000 is now owed to the capital account here. Assets are 100,000. Who do we owe it to? The owner at this case. That's all that has happened so far. B then says, received cash for client for work done. So now we got cash for work that has been done. So is cash affected? Yes, it's going to go up. We received cash. Cash is a debit balance represented by the fact that it does not have brackets. We're going to make it go up by doing the same thing to it, which in this case is another debit. We're going to right click on it, copy it, put our cursor right next to the B on the top in the debit section, right click, paste it 1, 2, 3. This is going to be in the debit section of 10,000. No special formatting. I'm going to go in the credit side. I'm going to put a negative, left once, up once. I want to take what's in that cell in D8 and flip the sign, make it a negative. So enter, and there we have that. Again, you could just type in a negative 10,000, or you can start to use a formula like that if you would like to. The only question is, what are we going to credit now? Why did people pay us 10,000? Because we earned money, and that would be revenue down here. So revenue is going up. Revenue, we already know we're going to credit it, but let's think it through. Revenue has a credit balance, and it only goes up. How do we make something go up? We do the same thing to it, which in this case would be another credit. So it does make sense that we would credit it. So let's copy that. We're going to post that in C9, paste it 1, 2, 3. Then let's record this. So we're going to go over here to K10. Once again, I'm in the GL. This is called posting the general journal to the general ledger. The cash account ledger, the first account we're going to post to in the debit column in cell K10. Right underneath the last transaction, it's recorded by date or in order of transaction. We didn't put a date column here because I don't want to complicate the worksheet, but it's in order by transaction. So then we're going to say equals. We're always just going to hit equals on the general ledger. We can then point to the cash that we're trying to record. So we've got D8. So it's going to go from 100, and then once we record that, the running balance is going to increase to 110. So the debits are winning, of course, by 110. That's all we have so far. The debits will always win when we talk about a debit balance account, like cash, like an asset for the most part. Now that, of course, the running balance here got posted here. Where does that come from? Right there. Then we're out of balance by the 10 until we post the other side. So the other side is a revenue account. Revenue is over here. This is in the credit column. This is in the credit column. So we're going to be down here in cell P25. Then say equals in that cell. And I'm going to go over here and point to that 10. And once we record that, that should bring this up in the credit direction, in the credit side on the general ledger. And it'll also post it to the trial balance here. Put us back in balance there, back in balance here and here. Let's see, so there we have it, 10 there, it went up. That's also recorded there. Where's that coming from? It's coming from here. We have zeros here because this is in balance, meaning assets minus the liabilities equals 0. This 0 means that the whole general ledger is in balance, like so. It's just summing up the total balances in all the GL accounts. And of course our trial balance, our account equations in balance. And there we have that. So also note that that affected net income, meaning income went up, meaning revenue, credit, minus expenses is income of 10,000. So then we can take a look at the next one, cash, paid cash to employees. So is cash affected? Yes. Is it going up or down? Down. Does cash have a debit or credit balance? Debit. How do we make something go down? We do the opposite thing to it, which in this case would be a credit. So that's a debit balance. We need to make it go down. We're going to credit it. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to put that underneath the C. So there's C. I'm going to put it in column row 12. Paste it 1, 2, 3. I'm going to go in the credit column and put a negative. How much? 600. And then we're going to go in the debit column, and there's going to be some account will be debited for 600. And again, we could do it this way. We could say negative of this number, negative of what's in E12 will be a positive 600, or you can just type in 600. What's going to be that account? Well, if we look at our chart of accounts, something that has to do with paying the employees. How about wages expense? And we already know we're going to debit it because we credited cash, but let's think about it. Expenses all have debit balances. They only go up. And so how do we make something go up? We do the same thing to it, which in this case would be a debit. So that makes sense that we are debiting it. So I'm going to right click, copy, put our cursor in C11, right click, paste 1, 2, 3. Then we're going to post this out. Once again, this is the general journal. We're going to post it to the general ledger, which has all of our accounts and detail by date in them. So we're going to go to wages, which is over here. It's in order, assets, liabilities, equity, income, and expenses. We're in cell S9. I'm in the debit column of the wages in the general ledger. And that's in S9